Hey guys, it's me. Now, in this video, I want to discuss something, an issue with Saints Row 2. Why wasn't the three original rival gangs that were locked up, that were locked up, and put in prison wearing jumpsuits? But no, all I saw from a cutscene in the very, very, like I only saw the Brotherhood in a cutscene being released from prison. And what needs to happen is that redconning thing happening. And what needs to happen is that which is, if they were to do a remaster of Saints Row 2, they'd have to go about having to have like a conversation like you would in like The Sims, and crossing paths with former rival gangs and former rival gang members from Saints Row 1 upon going back to the prison and talking with them. And then ending up having a big ol' issue with like the boss being like, hey, you, the Los Carnales, fucked up getting in our way. You fucked up getting in our way. And then warning the West Side Rollers, hey, you fucked up getting in our way of taking over Stillwater. And warning the Vice Kings, or saying, hey, you fucked up stepping into our territory. That means the beginning events of Saints Row 1 being like, hey, having the boss saying, hey, you fucked up stepping into the Saints Row district. You fucked up dividing the district amongst yourselves. And that's what caused my gang to form before I joined, to take the fight to you guys, because you guys were a problem, a stain on Stillwater's history. And they would respond accordingly. Some of them get pissed, some of them not. Some of them regretting being enemies of the Saints. But no, in Saints Row 2, you don't see West Side Rollers, Los Carnales, or Vice Kings anywhere in the prison. It's just a bunch of generic NPCs. That's the continuity problem between Saints Row 1 and 2. Despite the taggings of West Side Rollers, Vice Kings, Los Carnales. And here's a theory. The like half of the Vice Kings joined in, like became like members of the, or all of the Vice Kings followers developed Caribbean accents, and yet half of the West Side Rollers that were Caucasian joined the Brotherhood, and all of the Los Carnales followers joined the Brotherhood as well. And all of the Asian followers of the West Side Rulers joined in the western branch of the Ronin. And that's the theory. But the Saints, being a multiracial, multicultural street gang in Stillwater, was the only gang that was consistent in the Saints Row franchise. That was the only consistent gang all through the franchise. And here's the thing. When Saints Row 2 was being made, I guess they didn't contemplate on that, but they left like graffiti from all three previous rival gangs from Saints Row 1 on the prison walls as a Easter egg from the first game, indicating that they were arrested and spent prison time. Which leads me to my my theory is that each stronghold mission that was completed was the police cracking down on all three gangs. And what little members that were left were arrested each time. And each time that the Saints were spreading into Los Carnales, Vice King, and West Side Roller territory, expanding like that, boom. The more the Saints spread into stronghold territory of all three gangs, bam, they would get arrested, be hit with some bullshit charges in Stillwater, being sent to the prison, and spend a long time there. And during the main missions of Saints Row 1, even more members, followers, generic NPC gangbangers of all three original gangs from Saints Row 1 would get arrested. And during each neighborhood riot, during gang pushbacks, with people being assaulted and attacked, a bunch of assailant members would get arrested. Thusly, each marked NPC that was lower level generic NPC lieutenants were killed, their crews would get prison time. And then, bam! With the main, special, unique, rare homie types of lieutenants or the higher-ups or the leadership of each gang would crumble, would feel the pressure. Not just everybody at the bottom, but everybody at the top of those rival gangs in Saints Row 1. And here's the thing. With all but Benjamin King from the Vice Kings were dead, all but Donnie from the Westside Rulers were dead, and all but Luz from the Los Carnales were dead. That just leaves one thing. They got out of prison after spending a long time between arcs. Like if you finish, like it depends on what arc you finish. The game starts exactly the same. The ending of Saints Row still stays the same, but depends on the chapter. Well, chapter 1 and chapter 2 and chapter 3 depends on which gang you go after first. It depends on which gang you go after first. And with that being said, it doesn't matter what chapter of Saints Row 1 you complete. Doesn't matter which gang you go after first. If you go after the Vice Kings, Los Carnales, or the Westside Rulers first, that's the gang of chapter 1 you eliminate. Depending on chapter 2 of which out of the 2 remaining gangs you take down. If you go after the Westside Rulers or the Vice Kings next on chapter 3 or chapter 2, either the third or the second chapter, one outcome happens. The rival gang that you choose to go after during the second chapter, that gang is gone. And the last chapter, the third chapter, depending on the remaining gang that you did not choose for chapter 2 or chapter 1 of Saints Row 1, is the last gang on that insanely short list. Is that's the last gang. Depending on which gang you leave last, is the very last gang you take down. And the game still ends the same way. The game ends up beginning the same way, ending the same way. The chapters, no matter which gang you go after first, or go after second, go after last, it still ends the same way. And here's the thing about Saints Row 2. The same thing. The same thing. No matter which gang you go after first, or go after last, or go after Second, Saints Row 2 ends the same way. I strongly have a big old problem with how you don't have like the NPCs rocking the red cross, the yellow crown, and the blue wheel tattoos on them, indicating that they were arrested and they have those tattoos. The 3-point yellow crown being tattooed on their arm or somewhere, maybe on their face, and the red cross being tattooed anywhere on their body, or the blue wheel being tattooed anywhere on their body to where it's visible, can be seen, and they're all in prison. They would not be the current gangs the Saints are going against. They'd be the remnants, the shadowed remnants of whatever was left of the three rival gangs from the first Saints Row game that was arrested and spent permanent prison time. And the Saints, you'd have some black, some white, some Asian, some Hispanic members of the Saints having tattoos that were from the first Saints Row game, having an extremely bright, neon bright purple fleur-de-lis, as purple and as bright as my shirt, being, in fact, even in prison, and a member of the Saints being that even with Carlos's brother being, having a fleur-de-lis, and the name of the gang being on the headstone of the very of the various of headstones, and having each name of each follower in a specific designated spot of the cemetery. And the cemetery expands and evolves over time, over the course of Saints Row 2, but no, it still stays the same. And each higher up of all three current rival gangs would have their gang icon logo being etched on their headstones, and the name of the gang that they were in pretty much taking up the gang wing, or the gangster wing of the very cemetery neighborhood of the very suburbs expansion of Stillwater in Saints Row 2. and the civilian the civilian spot of the very very cemetery in Saints Row 2 being for civilians. Some that were killed during like the events of the Hitman activity being buried, and also the police being buried. And the name of the chief of police from Saints Row 1, Earl Monroe. Yeah, Earl Monroe, the chief of police, being buried in the police wing of the graveyard or the cemetery in Saints Row 2, along with Richard Alderman Hughes by his side, but Volition did not contemplate on doing that at all. So they wound up going about what was not supposed to happen, is that during that time, during development, they were coming up with gangs like the bums, the very like beta gangs of Saints Row 2, and they decided to not add that. Because you see, the problem is that a lot of people ending up going about not adding in all those possibilities. But sadly, much to my dismay, the only remnants of like the former enemy gangs that the Saints took down in Saints Row 1 was just graffiti art on the walls. And when I played through Saints Row 2, and I still saw some unsaints tagged graffiti from the 3 previous rival gangs from Saints Row 1 that was still around. And I was thinking, if I was to complete all the tagging locations in Saints Row 1, and I'm like thinking to myself, motherfucker, thought I covered all these up. And then more show up in Saints Row 2. That's just not how it's supposed to happen. All Westside Roller, Vice King, and Los Carneles tagging was supposed to not be visible in Saints Row 2. But if they did a Saints Row 2 remastered, I think they have already, or was planning on, or was supposed to be planning on doing so, they should give you the ability to tag over old gang tags on everything. Just to wipe away the shadows from the past game, while tagging over new gang tags. But here's how how that would have ended up. Luz ends up hearing about it. Donnie ends up hearing about it. And Benjamin King comes back into Saints Row 2. They would pretty much take over the bonus and the extra territories or the extra neighborhoods as they would become the enemy gang that would pretty much be the Vice Carnalas Rollers or something like that, or the Vice Carnalas Rollers, a mashup of the West Side Rollers, the Vice Kings, and the Los Carnales, meaning that they would have a stake in having small territory. And what little former territory that they had in the first game was, in fact, gone to the Ronin, the Brotherhood, the Sons of Samdi, and the Saints being able to go back into the Saints Row district. And the Saints Row district should not have changed too much between Saints Row 1 and Saints Row 2. And being able to go back to your first ever crib in Saints Row 1, while having a new Saints Row crib that's a shitty Saints Row crib in Saints Row 2 in the red light district. Being able to have both accessible in whatever threads you may have unlocked, or unlockable outfits from Saints Row 1 would still be available in Saints Row 2. Which leads me to my point. Even the weaponry from Saints Row 1 and Saints Row 2 are able to be accessible. Meaning, the melee weapons still available, the firearms are still available, and being still able to have access to all the previous cribs from the Saints Row 1 game, while having new cribs all throughout Stillwater in Saints Row 2. Being able to reclaim the penthouse, reclaim the Barrio Mansion, reclaiming Price's Mansion, and being able to still keep them, and having all the vehicles of the Vice Kings, Los Carnales, the West Side Rollers, being able to still be able to keep them, or go to an impound lot, take them back. And that topless stripper from Saints Row 1 and Chicken Ned and Legally still being accessible to call up as homies. But making sure that Chicken Ned was able to carry a firearm. And not also that, all of the cutscene characters from the activities, they would all work in one building, and then having that as a package run activity in Saints Row 2. Having them just have you go on 20 package runs before getting them as call-upable homies in your contacts. But they weren't at all available. They were absent in Saints Row 2. And the King's grocery store or surplus or convenience store, you've been able to go in there, going into that store, and being able to go into it in Saints Row 2 like you could in Saints Row 1 during its development. And also, in Saints Row 1, you were supposed to be able to have access to a character creator location in the Saints Row district. Being able to find it. Being able to find that very spot. And having that very spot be there to be able to be accessible as a location in the Saints Row district in Saints Row 2. And all of your bought outfits in Saints Row 1 is still in your Saints Row Loft apartment. Still there to still be able to get access to it. But no, they didn't contemplate on that, because between Saints Row 1 and Saints Row 2, the in the game's lore, all of the Saints Row district was changed dramatically over the course of a few years. But yet, here's the thing. Former Los Cardinales territory should have got that development. Not the Saints Row district, but that development of a few years. Everywhere around the shipping and docks and warehousing, and former Los Cardinales territory, all of it should have got flipped. All of it should have got flipped. All of it. That's why they should have flipped the former Los Cardinales territory to where it looks beautiful. But no, it still looks like shit. Former Los Cardinales territory in Saints Row 2 still looks like shit. And yet, the Saints Row district should have never got changed. Should have been the same slum, the church not being like flipped, should have still stayed the way it was in Saints Row 1 to Saints Row 2. You still being able to have access to all your old cribs, all your old places. But they didn't allow it. Not at all. That's the problem. That's the problem right there. But anyways, this has been the commentary. The Saints Row commentary.